This module focuses on fuels reduction, the process of managing the amount and arrangement of fuels to modify fire behavior. We'll talk about the objectives and principles of fuels reduction methods ranging from thinning to prescribed burning, priority locations for fuels treatment, and how fuels reduction can be integrated with other objectives such as maintaining wildlife habitat. We'll be building on what you learned in the Fire Science and Home Protection Strategies modules. The information in this module is directly relevant to landowners with forest or other wooded acreage, as well as those with chaparral or rangeland vegetation. And since fuels reduction is a critical part of creating fire-adapted communities, it's an important practice for all CFA volunteers to understand, even if they don't have acreage with those vegetation types. So after this module, you will understand and be able to describe the objectives of fuels reduction, the 4 principles of fire-resistant forests and woodlands, typical fuels reduction methods for forests, woodlands, chaparral, and rangelands, some of the priority locations for fuels reduction, and how to integrate fuels reduction with other objectives. In this module, we're talking mainly about wildland fuels reduction, that is, reducing fuels in the area beyond the home ignition zone and defensible space, so beyond the circled area. Do you remember the 3 legs of the fire behavior triangle? They are, of course, weather, temperature, winds, humidity, and so forth, topography, the lay of the land, and fuels. We can't do much about weather or topography, but we can manage the amount and arrangement of fuels. It's important to understand the objectives of fuels reduction. A key objective is to reduce the rate of spread of a wildfire and the intensity of that fire. This makes it easier to suppress the fire if needed and reduces the amount of damages to property and resources. For example, after a fuels treatment, a fire may burn through a forest and kill some small trees while only scorching the bases of larger trees, leaving them alive and intact. The objectives of fuels reduction could be summed up by saying, make your property less inviting to fire and more inviting to firefighters. Note that fuels reduction is not intended to fireproof, quote-unquote, a forest, or even keep a fire out of a forest. The main objective is to change how fire behaves so it is less damaging. So, how do you create a forest or woodland that is resistant to wildfire? That is, the forest or woodland can experience a fire without being destroyed or significantly damaged. Research in a variety of forest and woodland fuel types has revealed 4 basic principles for developing fire resistance. They are: reduce surface fuels, the small sticks and other fine fuels in the ground surface; reduce ladder fuels, so that the live crown, the branches of trees, are elevated higher above the ground surface; decrease crown density, space out the tree crown so fire has a harder time spreading between trees; and keep larger trees that are more likely to survive a fire. Of these 4 steps, reducing surface and ladder fuels are the most important. These photos show the same pine oak woodland before and after fuels reduction. How do you think a fire would behave in each situation? In this case, the fuels reduction treatment involved removal of dense brush and some small trees. The material was piled and then burned.